Yeah, so welcome. TT 2023 is almost upon us. A couple of days before first practice, and picked up the bike this evening from AGR, who do all the prep work for the electronics and things on the bikes for us on behalf of the TT. So she's back now, all ready to go. We're just making our final few touches to it just to get her ready for first practice on Monday. And since the last video we did where we collected the bikes, a few people have been asking us some questions about what goes into making these bikes ready to go out on the TT course. Essentially still a road bike, but with a few modifications made just to aid us in what we're doing out there, really. So not as much as you'd actually think. People are convinced that we're using some kind of trick suspension, modified exhausts and things like that, but honestly, the Fireblade, the SP Fireblade is so good straight out the box. I mean, what more do you really need? It's full of Öhlins, Brembo, traction, all electronics. I think they're 210 plus brake horsepower straight out of the box, doesn't need any more power. So first thing is we make it a little bit more comfortable, and the only thing we were doing with that really is we put a bigger screen on. You see standard screens that come on sports bikes or any bikes really now apart from Tourers. They're so small that we have to modify them. Once you get above maybe 150, 160 miles an hour, the amount of wind you get, and especially here at such sustained speeds for a long time, it takes its toll on you, especially with all the gear we wear. So we're wearing our big jackets on top of our leathers and they really catch the wind. So if we can get out of that as much as possible, it makes a huge difference. So big screen goes on. And then more of the stuff at the front of the bike. Obviously we put our yellow plates on, so we spent a bit of time doing the backgrounds, getting the M's on, and we put a small little number on the front now, and there's no real reason for that other than when any of the great photographers around the TT course get a picture of us, sometimes we can't tell who's who because we're all dressed in identical gear and identical bikes. Although it's a little bit easier this year and last year because we've got a mix of the red, black and white 30th anniversary bike, so we can narrow it down to 2 or 3, but have the number on the front. Alleviate any arguments about that was me. So yeah, a little number on the front. Moving a bit further back, you'll see we've got a camera there on the front left. So that's hooked up to an SD card box on the front here, where as soon as the bike's running, it automatically records, and that just records everything that we go to, everything we see on the road, and if we ever need to go back and check anything, it's all there. In terms of the box on the front here, so if you've probably seen it on the TT footage, but also around the course if you've been here, the new red light system they've got, so if control hit the button and there's a red flag, and all those big red lights, LED lights come up around the course for the riders, our box here flashes red too. So if we happen to be out on track and then the red flag's put out, we immediately know, even if we're not in immediate view of one of the flag systems we've got on here. It also gives us a bit of information about what we're doing next, maybe to do with the course is still closed, but under technically safety car conditions where it's closed but there's no competitive action on. So we know what state the course is in at all times, no matter where we are. That's really the stuff at the front. As you work your way to the back, you'll see how we've got our tracker system in the back with the antenna. All vehicles on the circuit now, I think even all the competitors have all got trackers on. So if you ever see that picture of Gary up in his tower with his map, he knows where everyone is at any one time. So without having to double check, and the radio was, where are you, can you go here? At a glance you can see where we are, and it's great for control to have that. Let's just looking around the bike, you'll see there's the exhaust, the standard. It's a Kropovich exhaust, but it's not a race spec one. It's completely the standard one that comes on the SP. Full titanium system, great bit of kit, but yeah, it's just a standard one that comes on them. So they're not the loud ones that everyone thinks they are. They're not race cans. And yeah, really, that's all we're doing. Tyre wise, we've obviously TT have just done their deal with Metzler to be the official tyre supplier. So Metzler have sent us sets of their new Sportex to run for TT, and we'll see how they go. In the last few years we've obviously had Dunlop and they've been great. A change now, I'm sure that these will be just as good. So that's pretty much it in terms of getting the bike ready to go. So we also had a bunch of questions from people, and the same kind of things kept cropping up to do with not just the bikes, but us and the things we're doing. So we're just going to fire through a few of them. So common ones, people asking about, are the bikes limited in any way, speed-wise? And the answer is yes and no. So we don't have a limit put on them, and the TT don't put a limit on them. But Honda limit the bike to 300 kilometers an hour. So when and there's many places around here where the bike easily does that. And so on the clock, it hits 186 and doesn't go any quicker. And to be honest, it can do that in 5th gear. But yeah, it's the Honda thing. I mean, you can't obviously, you know, if you look at John McGuinness's bike, his isn't limited to 186. You can go in, you can mess with electronics, and you can take all those restrictors off. But we're just running them standard road bikes. 186 is plenty fast enough, especially, and it's only the super bikes really, and some of the stockers which are going quicker. So it's not an issue. So yeah, the no limit put on them, but other than Honda's own limit of 300 k's. Another one that got asked was, if you've seen us go out on a live track, we move between, if there's been an instance around the course and some of us are moving to cover a different section, we'll just go out in the middle of a race. And some people go, oh my God, you know, you came through so fast. How come none of you guys have races? Well, the answer to that is we've all raced. A lot of people still don't realise that all of the travel marshals are ex-racers of either the TT or Manx Grand Prix. So that's why we kind of look similar to the guys who are racing around. A bit obviously silly to just anybody who's got a road licence to just go out on the TT course on one of these in the middle of a TT race and expect to sort of not get in the way. You know the correct line, you know the correct speeds. You're nowhere near as quick as the guys at the TT, but you're predictable. And so if they need to get past you, they can. You know, we're not taking some crazy line that's going to throw them off. So yeah, that's the reason why we sometimes, if you see us coming past, we look like we're going pretty quick. Another one that gets asked is, it must be really difficult going off constantly on cold tyres. And the first year I did it, in 2016, we had the last of, if you like, the analog Fireblades, where they did that TT edition where there was 50 of them, and they can just completely, there's no electronics on them, bar an early sort of ABS system, so there's no traction, no anti-wheelie, none of that. And I came in at Manx Grand Prix, and you'll know, evenings, late August on the Isle of Man, once it goes after 8 o'clock at night, it can get cold, especially on the mountain. And sometimes you set off, especially if you come off the gooseneck, or even at Ballacrane and places like that, and you set off and you just give a little bit of power and the back's just slide looking for grip. Like, tyres are great these days and they heat up quick, but it takes a couple of miles. And yeah, going off on cold tyres is something that's always on your mind whenever you set off. But what's changed massively is even the 2017 blade and all the way up to this one, which is just head and shoulders above that one, but the traction control they have on them now is so sophisticated that it's not that you don't need to worry about a cold rear tyre, but if you do have those little moments, it kind of takes care of it before you even really felt it go. So the new bikes make cold tyre riding so much better. Obviously the front's a different story. You're not going to save a front end on a cold front, so you just got to be mindful of that. But getting on the power too soon with a cold rear is it's not a thing of the past, but these things with the electronics, they make it so much better, so much better. Yeah, a lot of quick fire questions really. So people ask how many travel marshals are there. There was 8 last year. We actually had an extra one in. Number 8, Darren Slew, came in as technically a reserve, but he just did the whole thing with us. We just had an extra TM out there all the time, which was really handy. Last year's number 6, Oatsy, retired now, so we're back down to 7. 7's is enough. 8's handy, but 7's enough. So yeah, there's 7 of us, and we just dotted around the course at quite even intervals. So somebody at the grandstand, Ballacrane, Kirkmichael, Sulby, Parliament Square. Then we have one at the gooseneck, which sounds a little bit, why would you have someone so close to Ramsey? But the amount of incidents we get between, not so much at the TT, but inexperienced riders who used to be a bit more at the Grand Prix, at Mayhill, and the waterworks, we can get a TM to them from Ramsey and they can come off at Hibernia and get back. And then we've still got the travel marshal then to cover the mountain. And then we'll have another one at Brandywell and obviously one back at the finish. So yeah, that's where we are. And that's why sometimes you'll see, there might be an incident on let's just say somewhere near Ramsey, and you'll see a travel marshal going through Glen Helen and you're thinking, wow, why is he moving? And so if you picture us all sat on around the course like that, and there's an incident, one of us goes to it, he's then closer to the person ahead of him. So what we'll tend to do is move everybody around one position. So when he's finished dealing with the incident, he moves to the next one and all the rest are already covered. You just don't want to get in that situation where something happens, maybe something else happens, and you can end up with a third of the course not covered. So we're constantly just trying to keep, every part of the course covered between us all. The last thing to really put on the bike is my bag. It just goes on here. We've had a modified plate which sits in where the pillion seat cowl goes in. And the bag just contains just emergency medical gear really. So it's just things that we carry extra of. Some of it's already in those. If you've ever seen the Marshals with the orange boxes and they've got the stuff in, we just carry some extra bits in there, some things that just help us out. We also keep some things on us just in case. It's always handy to have stuff on you instead of looking to try and find where it is. So it's things we use a lot of, airways and things like that, we keep on us all times. So it's following day, a few more little bits done, bags on. Plates in, just need to tighten the strap up, a couple of cable ties, and then Tony has dropped off all the RST gear. So we've got another couple of sets of leathers to try here. RST have actually made us some bespoke suits. So all they've really done is they've taken their race suit at the moment and they've taken the hump out, and the reason is because we've got the jackets on. When you wear them over the top of the hump, they pulls on you quite a lot around the neck, so they've taken the hump out for us, which makes a huge difference. But yeah, we've got some socks as well, a couple of suits to try, different sizes, new gloves. They've even chucked in a backpack, which is really nice, undersuit, which is always handy to have, and your leathers, and then they've chucked in a bag here of hoodies, t-shirts, and yeah, just some casual wear really. So yeah, the only thing really we've got left to do is turn you around. Just got to go up to Grandstand tomorrow, pick up the RI, get signed on, and then we're pretty much good to go. So yeah, looking forward to getting out. We're ready. We'll try and do a few more videos over the next couple of weeks if we get time. It's all time dependent, basically, really just on how busy we are and if we've got time to actually pick up the camera. But people have been asking for the stuff, and it's always interesting to get an insight into these things. So we'll try and do a few more over the next couple of weeks. So thanks a lot.